Kawhi Leonard continues to have the commitment to excellence. Somewhere Al Davis across the pearly gates is smiling because Kawhi Leonard, early in his NBA career, San Antonio, I thought he was a fraud. I admit it. I didn't think he was legit. I thought he was just a product of the Spurs system. He proved himself in Toronto. And now, Kawhi proving himself in Clipper laundry, his first playoff game with the Clippers. And I don't know if you had a chance to watch it or not. You might have missed it. The board man cometh. 29 points, 12 rebounds, a partridge in a pear tree, and the People's team outslugged the Mavericks in the playoff lid lifter from the bubble in Orlando. Paul George chipping in 27 for the Clippers. That's just like they drew it up in the offseason when they put the team together. The Clippers, more importantly, if you're a gambler, if you're a degenerate gambler, they covered the point spread, but not by much. They were a 7-point favorite. They won by 8. And they made more plays down the stretch, played with more poise overall in the game than the underdog Dallas Mavericks. Now, a lot of the media are smitten kittens with one Luka Doncic. And I've seen a number of stories praising Luka Doncic because he had 42 points. And, oh, my God, the most amazing rookie performance, or first-year playoff performance in NBA history and all that, blah, 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 blah. Those are what's known as, say it with me now, zombie stats. The team lost, and don't bury the lead, my man. Luka Doncic, you know how many turnovers he had? 11. He was a one-man turnover machine for Dallas. How about you don't turn the ball over as much? Maybe you win the game. How about that? All right, so let us discuss. The question, what are your first impressions here of the playoff version of the Clippers, the team that will, according to my bracket on FoxSportsRadio.com, the bracket challenge that we had, I have the Clippers winning the whole thing. The Clippers, now I'm not going to sit here and be a PR house man for the Clippers. I believe in truth in broadcasting. The Clippers played imperfect basketball. They did not play well. And how great is that when you don't play your best and you still win? They can be much better than that. Now, I was still impressed with the tenacity of the Clippers. Despite being out of sync, it looked like the Clippers were going to win this game early on. If you watched the first 2 minutes of the game, it looked like they were going to win this game by 50 points. They were a runaway freight train at the start of the game. The floodgates opened up, and the Clippers, they had an 18-2 lead in the beginning part of the game. But as you know from years of watching basketball, the most irrelevant part of a basketball team is the first quarter. And then, of course, they buckled after that. They went into a tailspin. And Dallas, to their credit, they got some fight. That dog's got some fight. We'll see how much fight they have as they continue to lose games to the Clippers. But the most encouraging thing from this game, playoff PG-13. Playoff PG-13. It's getting lost in the haze. We'll get to the haze in a minute. But some of you knuckleheads, and you know who you are, all right? You've reached out to me, and you were trying to rain on my parade, and you were like, oh, yeah, just wait. Wait till the playoffs. Wait till playoff PG-13 shows up. And you were warning me that Paul George, he would be the kryptonite. He would derail the whole thing. Well, it's only one game. That's all we have to judge this on. But I've heard all the stories that you look at Paul George, he's the opposite of Kawhi Leonard. The guy vanishes in the playoffs. He's a phony. Horror story after horror story. Well, so far in his Clipper playoff debut, and really his whole career, because one game is his playoff career with the Clippers, by George, Paul off to a glowing start. Like a cartoon superhero, Paul George put his cape on and was able to glide across the court smoothly, shield the Clippers from harm's way, and more importantly, disorient the Mavericks. See, Kawhi is Batman, but Batman needs Robin, and that's Paul George. You got Batman and Robin. Now, he missed a few bunnies in this game, Paul George, but his still overall stat line was more than enough. If you could bottle that up, that performance by Paul George, playoff PG-13, and put that in every game's box score, sign me up for that. I don't know where I have to sign. I'll sign my name. Sign me up for that. Now, also, how about Marcus Morris, the savvy Jerry West, going out and poaching him from the New York Knickerbockers, saving him from basketball Siberia in New York City, and Marcus Morris putting up a lethal weapon from downtown. The double whammy with the double-double with cheese from Zubats, the great Zubats, a gift from the incompetent Lakers. And the Clippers win this game. Montrezl Harrell played like crap. Reggie Jackson looked like he should be released from his job. He was so bad. And Landry Shamet. What the hell happened? These guys all played like manure. The Clippers still won the game, covered the spread. Now, part B of this, as we chat here in the Magic Radio box. Now let me address the Komodo dragon in the room. We all know what that is. All right, third quarter, the Mavericks, Kristaps Porzingis, ejected from the game, kicked out of the game. There was a scrum on the court. He was the third man in. Did he deserve to be thrown out of the game? This is the hot button issue in the NBA chatterbox, if you will, in the third quarter. Now, I'm going to answer that question very simply, and I'll be the grown-up here, unlike these morons who are running around with this nonsense. Did Kristaps Porzingis deserve to be ejected? Absolutely. This was a warranted ejection, and I don't get the whole hullabaloo that was started by this. Porzingis, now he said after the game he doesn't believe he should have been ejected. Shocking. That's a shocking statement. LeBron James, of course, chimed in because he has to chime in on everything. And he said that was bogus as hell. This whole episode is comical. All right, and I'm going to walk you through why this thing with Porzingis is comical. Like, there's this false belief, and you could tell from LeBron James's comment and some of the other comments coming in from the NBA movers and shakers, that there's some kind of bias in favor of the Clippers. All right, you know what that shows? That shows you that LeBron James and all these people saying there's a bias in favor of the Clippers, these people are suffering from Clipper-related neurosis, all right? They are suffering from some issues in the head, all right? They were triggered because they think there's a bias, and, you know, that shows you how scared everyone is of this Clipper team, right? Here's how I see it. The rules are the rules, right? You can't be escalating an altercation. Porzingis acted like an out-of-control hothead. He did. He was an out-of-control hothead in this situation. And send a message. Really what the NBA should do is suspend Porzingis for game 2 of the play. I'm not kidding here. I'm not being a shock jock, because you've got to get the word out. You can't be the third man in. It would have been criminal if the officials had not thrown him out of the game. The NBA has put up guardrails. We all know what they are. They're in place in every one of these games. And you can't have guys breaking the protocol. Porzingis, he should have practiced social distancing. Bad job by him. He was playing the role of the troublemaker. And if you get sucked into that, that's the mental warfare of the Kawhi Leonard Clippers. Kawhi was walking around. He had no interest in any of that. But you are held responsible for your actions. That's how society is supposed to work. At least I think that's how it's supposed to work. Of course, the real reason and the real lesson, the real reason Porzingis got ejected and the real lesson of this is if you don't pick up a bullcrap technical foul early in the game, then you don't have to worry about getting ejected when you get a second technical foul. If that first one hadn't happened, he wouldn't have been kicked out of the game. And Porzingis, it also tells you where he is in the pecking order of the NBA. This guy's a second-tier player, not a top-tier player. Top-tier player doesn't get kicked out of the game. Second-tier player gets kicked out. Right? At least he now knows where he stands in the pecking order of the NBA. You just cannot come unglued like that. Bad job by him. Composure. You got to have composure. And some of these mamalukes on social media seem to think that Dirk Nowitzki is actually Kristaps Porzingis. So they somehow morphed into each other, and that if only the unicorn had continued to play, that the Mavericks would have won this game. That's ridiculous. You know nothing about basketball if you say that. Stop. You're embarrassing yourself. It's total nonsense. Porzingis wasn't even playing well. He was shooting 33% from the floor in the game, and while he was on the court at the time he was ejected, the Mavericks were better off with him on the bench. They were outscored while Porzingis was on the court. It's a fact. You can look it up. I'm not making it up. You can look it up. All right, last word here. Now, some of you trolls who love to bust my balls seem to think that this is some kind of positive loss for Dallas, that they traded blow for blow with the much more talented Clippers, sans Kristaps Porzingis, who got kicked out for the bulk of the second half. Let me debunk this myth right now. I'm going to debunk this, all right? This is not some kind of fugazi moral victory for Dallas. As a rule of thumb, I got big thumbs. As a rule of thumb, we don't believe in moral victories. If anything, it gives the Mavericks a false sense of hope. It is much more encouraging for the Clippers, and I'm going to tell you why. All right, the Clippers are a work in progress. And you got to think of it like this. I'm going to give you the perfect analogy of what this Clipper team is early in the playoffs. They are a ball of Play-Doh in the hand of Kawhi Leonard. All right, Kawhi Leonard's holding a ball of Play-Doh, and he's molding and he's twisting around with his fingers, and he's shaping what he believes this team needs to be to eventually, and they will win the NBA championship. That's what Kawhi's doing right now. It's better to not play your best and still come out with a win. That's a great ringing endorsement that you can play not up to your standard and still come out in the winner's circle. That is a sign of a title contender, a championship team. Now, they still have a lot of things to correct. And fortunately, the NBA playoffs go on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Game 2 is on Wednesday, but there's plenty of time to work out the kinks